You're listening to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast network.
There's a team that's in our hearts. We've got love that won't depart. We are always in the stands, 'cause we're super Dolphin fans. Football is mighty rough. Winning gets awful tough. We're rooting for the Dolphins. Our mighty, mighty Dolphins. We're rooting for the Dolphins. Our mighty, mighty Dolphins.
Hello, Miami Dolphin fans, and welcome to the Same Old Dolphin Show, sponsored by BetUS, part of the DolphinsTalk.com podcast network. I'm Josh Katzker, and not with me today is my brother from the exact same mother. Aaron has done a great job helming the ship when I've been unable to record, and today I am returning the favor. So, Aaron, enjoy your rest, my brother. Well, it is a tough day for us. The Dolphins lost 23-17 last night to the Los Angeles Chargers as I record here on Monday afternoon. But it's a final score that simply does not accurately tell the story of the game. The Dolphins were completely and totally outplayed in all aspects, and if not for a fluky touchdown off of a fumble recovery and a bad pass on a questionable decision to go for it by Brandon Staley early in the game on a 4th and goal, the scoreboard probably ends up looking a lot different in this game. The offense completely no-showed in this game. For the second straight game, Tua was out of sorts. Receivers couldn't get separation and dropped passes. The Chargers, to their credit, were being very physical with our receiver on the line of scrimmage, and they were doing a great job in coverage. They dropped their linebackers into coverage, and they performed better than I think anybody would have expected them to. They really did an excellent job of shutting down the Dolphins' game plan. And our head coach, our genius play caller, kept pounding his head against the wall and refused to find a way to simplify the game. There were no quick out routes. There were no screens, nothing. And against one of the worst rushing defenses in the league, the former run game coordinator couldn't figure out an effective way to establish the run. Yes. Okay, he's a rookie head coach, but he will receive a lot of criticism this week, and he is going to deserve it. He absolutely must answer for his inability to counter what the Chargers gave him. He has to. And you're going to hear a lot of talk about that this week. And again, it's only a couple of game sample size, but it's criticism that is well-deserved. And he's going to have to make that adjustment going forward because teams have adjusted to figure out how to slow down what the Dolphins want to do. So now that they've done that, the Dolphins have to figure out a plan B. What is that plan B? Well, we're still waiting to find out. The defense, in spite of being put in bad positions most of the night by Josh Boyer's overly aggressive scheme, fought valiantly to keep the team in it, but ultimately couldn't do enough. That's a story we've heard many times before. Everything the Dolphins tried to do, Justin Herbert and the Chargers had the answer. Every time the Dolphins tried to take something away, they gave Herbert something else, and he happily took it, which is what a great quarterback does. There are individuals worth praising on the defensive side of the ball. I thought Christian Wilkins was excellent again, and Jalen Phillips also deserves praise for playing another game, another great game, and just absolutely should have had 2 sacks. The roughing the passer penalty that was called against him was one of the absolute worst calls. The NFL simply has to do something about that call because that's as clean as a sack as you can get, and he was penalized for it. It ended up not costing the Dolphins anything on that drive other than field position, but the Chargers should have been punting the ball from their 5-yard line, and instead they had an opportunity to move the ball down the field and switch the field a little bit. It was just really garbage. This is not a game where it's the fault of the refs, but that call was awful. I thought Eric Rowe had a decent game on Sunday night as well. But again, trying to complement a few defensive players who had good performances is trying to put lipstick on a pig. This was a terrible game with plenty of culpability to go around. Now, as tough of a day as it is for Dolphin fans in general, it's an even worse day for the people who were loudly proclaiming on social media that Tua is significantly better than Justin Herbert, because on national television, Tua was exposed and Herbert thrived. I'm not going to spend much more time on this debate between the two players because they're different players in different systems who've been helped and hurt by those systems in different ways. And again, one game doesn't tell the whole story, but I'm not a big fan of the receipts crowd. Let me show you the receipts. But there's a whole lot of Dolphin fans who were probably talking a little bit too loudly, who are going to get showed the receipts. And I just hope that you can show the same kind of grace in accepting those receipts as you would have hoped to receive when you were showing other people their receipts. So like I said, one game doesn't tell the whole story, and we're going to dive into that a little bit in a moment. But first, if you're not doing so already, make sure you are following us on Twitter. I am at Amplified to Rock. My brother is at Aaron the Brain. That's at Aaron the Brain. And the show, of course, is at Same Old Dolphins. We invite you to download, rate, review, and subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and everywhere that you get your podcasts. Leave us a 5-star rating. Leave us a positive review. We appreciate you taking a moment to do that. And subscribe to the Dolphins Talk YouTube channel. Turn on the notification bell so you're notified every time we go live, or as in the case with this video, when it gets posted to the channel. And make sure you're visiting DolphinsTalk.com each and every day. It is your one-stop shop for all things Miami Dolphins. So I mentioned one game doesn't tell the whole story. And in fact, this was a second straight December road game where the Dolphins failed to make an impact. This was the second game in a 3-game gauntlet where the outlook at the start was that the Dolphins really needed to win at least one. And for the second time, they came up short. Obviously, there's still one game left in the gauntlet. That was always looking like the toughest of the 3. And now it is a game that the Dolphins really, it's not a must win, but as we're going to get into here, the narrative is shifting and shifting fast on this season, and it is a game that the Dolphins will need to win if they want to halt that narrative in its tracks. So there's a couple of ways to look at where the Dolphins find themselves right now. First, let's look at it on the micro level, okay? Look, it's 2 games. The Dolphins are still 8-5 and still have a 69% chance of making the playoffs. Nice. You'd much rather be sitting where the Dolphins are at 8-5 than where the Chargers are at, 7-6, or where the Patriots are at, as I record this, they're 6-6. They may be 6-7. They may be 7-6, but you'd much rather be the Dolphins than you'd be then the Raiders or the Jaguars or the Browns or one of those, any of those other teams that are holding on with eight losses already, right? So obviously the good work that the Dolphins have done early in the season and put themselves in this position, that they were at 8-3 before they've lost these last 2 games. All of those wins were important. You put yourself in that nice position, right? So you still have 4 games left to play, and if you can win 2 of those games, particularly the games against the Patriots and the Jets, or if you beat the Bills, you're very likely to get into the tournament. And from there, anything could happen, right? Even if the Dolphins lose to Buffalo next week, which at this point I don't want to say it's a given, but I'm having a hard time seeing anything coming out of that game other than an L. But still, even if they lose that game, they still control their own destiny in terms of making the playoffs, which is ultimately all you want, right? So they can still dust themselves off. They can still recover, right? Let's put it in context, right? Give you a little bit of just something to think about. Last season, the Cincinnati Bengals went on to win the Super Bowl. They made the playoffs with a 10-7 regular season record. And that is after losing their first 2 December games. Ironically, those 2 losses came to the San Francisco 49ers and the Los Angeles Chargers. The Bengals also lost those games at home. So the Dolphins lost these 2 games. They lost them on the road. So yes, there's every chance the Dolphins can bounce back and recover and make the playoffs and still make some exciting things happen. If you're looking at it just within the context of this season, there is still the possibility that the Dolphins can turn it around and bounce back, right? Of course, there's another way to look at this, and that's from a little bit more of a macro level. And this is where we're going to get into it a little bit here. And I just want to sort of preface this by saying, if you are somebody that doesn't want to hear any criticism of the team, this is the time to turn this video off and go find something else to watch. Okay. Because we're going to get into something here that is a little bit worrying. I would prefer that you stick around and you listen, because even if you are the brightest-eyed Miami Dolphin fan, you need to be able to look at these hard facts in the face and think about how they affect the future of your franchise, because it's important. Okay? So stick with me here. So we're looking at it from the macro level. First and foremost, no matter how much blame you want to put on Coach McDaniel, and again, deservedly so for these past couple of games, we have to look at the quarterback. Okay, because there is a small sample size for McDaniel's play calling shortcomings, right? Just these last couple of games, you could say the second half of the game against Houston after Armstead went out and the offensive line fell apart. So 2.5 games maybe is the sample size for McDaniel's play calling shortcomings, where he's been banging his head against the wall trying to do the same thing that clearly wasn't working. So while he has that sort of small sample size, there is a larger and more worrying pattern that is developing with the quarterback, okay? Now, look, when we looked at the schedule at the beginning of the season, we knew that this 3-game gauntlet, as I've been calling it, we knew this gauntlet was coming, and we knew that this was really going to be the defining stretch of football that told us who this team was and who this quarterback really is. We knew that this was going to be the stretch where we were going to find out. One of the biggest questions coming into this season that needed to be answered about Tua was whether or not he could put together a big performance on the road in December or January when the stakes are at their highest. And quite frankly, following a start to the season with the addition of Tyreek Hill and the play calling of Mike McDaniel, it seemed like Tua was perfectly positioned to change that narrative, that he was unable to come up big in those biggest games. And rather than change that narrative, all Tua has done over the last 2 games is reinforce it. Okay? He followed up a performance in San Francisco where he went 18 of 33. Well, that's 54% passing for 295, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, a 79.7 passer rating. He followed that up with an even worse performance against the Chargers. 10 of 28, 35.7%, 145 yards, and a touchdown, a 65.3 passer rating. And again, 55 of those yards came on the one long touchdown pass to Tyreek Hill where the defender trips over his own feet. I mean, whatever. Tua had to deliver the ball right there. He did. It was a touchdown. Fine. But, you include that pass in there. Those are not great numbers, okay? Tua is now 2-4 in road games in December and January in his career, with the only wins coming over the Ian Book-led, COVID-riddled New Orleans Saints and the Las Vegas Raiders in a game where he was pulled for Ryan Fitzpatrick, who led a miraculous comeback. So 6 road games in December and January in Tua's career so far. And it's not been great. Okay? Now, there are some people who will tell you that all games matter equally, regardless of where they fall on the calendar. Come on. Really? Yes. all of the games count equally in the standings. But you're going to honestly sit there and try to tell me that the stakes of a game played in week 1 or week 2 are the same as the stakes of a game played late in the season where it's all to play for? And I mean, the fact of the matter is that late season road games are much more reflective of how your players and team will perform in the playoffs than those early season games, because the mental game is different. Yes, athletes will tell you that their training teaches them to keep a level head and keep emotion out of it, but to pretend like the pressure of late season games don't apply in real world situations is ridiculous. This isn't a video game. These are real people, players and coaches, who are impacted by context, that are impacted by pressure. The fact is that there is a growing body of evidence that suggests that Tua doesn't have the ability to answer the call in those big games at the NFL level. Now, that doesn't mean that he never will. He could go into Orchard Park and a snowstorm on Saturday night and completely flip the script. But looking purely at the facts, okay, that's the stats on paper and the performances on film, he hasn't, right? I wish it wasn't true. I sincerely wish it wasn't true, but it is. And no amount of yeah-butting or what-abouting is going to change that. No amount of deflecting blame to somebody else is going to change that Tua has not come up big in these games, that he has performed at his worst in these games where the most is on the line. And not you, Siri. That's the problem. Okay? And that's not to take away everything else that he's done, all of the good that he's done over the course of this season. But thus far in his career, in those 6 games, it's not been great. And that's the problem. Which brings us to the next part of things from the macro level. And that's what we're going to talk about in just a moment. But first, and this is a really awkward transition, but it's never too early to play holiday music. Listen, I got my holiday lights up here in the studio, and it's never too early to start thinking about gifts. Whether it's for a friend or the friends in your pants, you can make this a season to be jolly with Manscaped. Do your little drummer boy a favor and use the Lawnmower 4.0 to avoid another silent night in the bedroom. Then add in Manscaped's top-of-the-line shower products to have the people thinking, all I want for Christmas is you. Santa cares about his sack, and so should you. Look nice when you get naughty by going to manscaped.com and use the promo code DolphinsTalk for free shipping and 20% off. The Manscaped Platinum Package 4.0 is the one-stop shop for the man who deserves it all. It has everything needed to help you deck the halls from face to balls just in time for mistletoe season. The Platinum Package has each product from the best-selling Performance Package Plus, Ultra Premium Body Wash, Ultra Premium 2-in-1 Shampoo and Conditioner, and Ultra Premium Deodorant. It's all Ultra Premium. It's the best way to smell fresh from your Santa hat to your candy cane. There's also a 4000K LED light on it, so you can light the way like Rudolph. And now that you groomed your candy cane, it's time to make sure you don't smell like a reindeer with the Platinum Package shower products. All of Manscaped shower gear is sulfate-free, vegan, and made to have your skin feeling hydrated and smelling fresh. But smelling good doesn't stop at the shower. The Crop Preserver Ball Deodorant and Crop Reviver Ball Toner can solve stank problems all day long. Once they touch your sack, you'll never go back. The Platinum Package 4.0 sitting under the tree is guaranteed to put anyone in the holiday spirit. And for the perfect stocking stuffer, add in the brand new Body Buffer, an incredible body scrubber that makes exfoliating easy and a lot cleaner than that old loofah. Get 20% off and free shipping with the promo code DolphinsTalk at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use the code DolphinsTalk. Manscaped, get your jingle balls ready for the holidays. And since the holidays are almost here, there happens to be plenty of t-shirt cheer thanks to our sponsor, True Classic Tees. Fellas, we've got the perfect gift for your wish list. True Classic Tees are a gift for you, a gift for her, and a great present for any guy in your life. True Classic is on a mission to maximize men's confidence by making them look good. Trust me when I say that this is a gift that the ladies will appreciate too. True Classic has already helped over 2 million men look great in their tees, and now you can save big while you do so. Get 25% off True Classic with my exclusive link, trueclassic.com/Dolphins Talk. And the discount doesn't stop there. You'll save even more during their site-wide sale. Discounts up to 70% off. Support our show and check them out at trueclassic.com/Dolphins Talk. If you're rocking a Santa bod, True Classics might be the Christmas miracle you've been waiting for. Almost all men's t-shirts are designed to look good to certain body types, while True Classics team designed t-shirts to make the fellas of all sizes out there feel confident in their clothing. These tees taper off towards the bottom, but they fit tighter around the chest and shoulders. It's a desirable look that can be achieved by every body type. They give you the wide shoulder and tapered bottom look that we're all looking for, and the quality of the t-shirts is elite. From going to the gym to your first date, there's no better look than a fresh True Classic tee. They offer other menswear as well, ranging from polos to workout shirts to even boxer briefs designed to keep your boys feeling nice and comfortable. They make it super easy to build out your wardrobe with their elite True Classic quality. And for my big fellas out there, they have long options for the tall guys and up to sizes all the way up to triple XL. True Classic also makes for the perfect gift or stocking stuffer for all the men in your life. Dad bods got you covered. Rip bods, you know it. Your average Joe? Yes, sir. Get yourself or someone you love the number one gift on Santa's list. It's a gift for you, but really it's a gift for her or him. Get 25% off at trueclassic.com/Dolphins Talk. Free shipping included on purchases over $100. That's 25% off at trueclassic.com/Dolphins Talk. Santa won't be the only one slaying, thanks to True Classic. So, transitioning back to the Dolphins now, and looking at them and the team from a macro level, we first discussed Tua's problems on the road in December and January. We've talked about it. I've been talking about it now for a little while, and, well, it is what it is. Those problems are what they are. So now, the second part of the problem, which is that Tua Tagovailoa will be the Miami Dolphins quarterback in 2022. Now, that fact in and of itself isn't a problem per se. I mean, in general, and in spite of the December and January road struggles, Tua has shown improvement each year of his career. The problem is that the Dolphins have gone all in on right now. After losing a first-round pick in 2023 because of Steve Ross's desire to bring in Sean Payton and Tom Brady and the whole tampering situation, the Dolphins, they only have the one first-round pick left, which they then traded to bring in Bradley Chubb. And to be fair, Bradley Chubb is added to the defense. He's picked up where Emmanuel Ogbah was struggling, and then obviously with Ogbah getting hurt, Chubb has filled that void nicely. But the Dolphins exchanged picks and committed money to Chubb, and in so doing, gave away any opportunity that they had left to pivot away from Tua after this season. Okay, they went all in on him, which has given them a very narrow window of about this year and next year to get things done. They also signed Eric Fisher to reinforce their unhealthy offensive line, right? The offensive line has been very unhealthy, and we could talk at length about how if the Dolphins had just been better drafting offensive linemen, they wouldn't be having to go out there and bring in guys like Eric Fisher, but here we are. They made moves. These moves that they made them, and those moves suggest that this front office believes that the Miami Dolphins, as they stand right now, are a legitimate Super Bowl contender. And if that's what you believe, fine. But from where I'm sitting, the performances in the last 2 weeks indicate that the 2022 Miami Dolphins are far from being a legitimate Super Bowl contender. And it means that they're going to have to find other ways to make significant investment on the defensive side of the ball for next season. And granted, yes, I know they're banged up in the secondary. You've lost Byron Jones. You've lost Brandon Jones. You've lost Nick Needham. You lost Trill Williams. You're playing with Cater Kohu and Kean Crossan out there getting significant reps. And, I mean, it's remarkable that the defense has performed, as well as it has, given all of those absences. So, yes, there's every chance that the Dolphins will be healthier next year, and that's going to make a significant difference. But the fact is, the Dolphins have a very small Super Bowl window. And if Tua fails to come up big again, right, he's got 2 more road games this season in December and January, right? He's got coming up against Buffalo on Saturday, and then home against the Packers on Christmas, and then you travel to New England. And if Tua in both of those games fails to show up and fails to deliver, you've left yourself with no room to pivot away to a different quarterback to support a team that you believe is otherwise ready to win a Super Bowl. And I'm not saying that the play of the quarterback is ultimately what's going to make the difference for this team, but at this point, it has been, in the last 2 games, the play of the quarterback has been a significant hindrance to the team. So just from where I'm sitting right now, and again, from a micro level, a lot can change this season. And, this whole conversation could be moot and beside the point. But once again, it feels to me like the Miami Dolphins have bet heavily on themselves and have failed to deliver the results. Now, 4 weeks left. A lot can change. But this is a story longtime Dolphin fans will be very familiar with. So, here's where we are. The expectation for this team in 2022 was that at worst, they'd make the playoffs, and ideally, they'd win at least a game. That was the baseline assumption. And that goal is still very much in reach. But it is looking a lot shakier than it was 2 weeks ago. But another possibility also exists. And it's one that some people said with certainty wasn't the case. It's one that makes nobody happy. It's one that we dread. It's one that we hoped was behind us and that we wouldn't have to deal with anymore. But unfortunately, this possibility hangs over us like the gray clouds, foreboding of a gathering storm. And that possibility, of course, is that this team remains the same old Dolphins. Now, I know things can change. 4 weeks left. But right now, I have no confidence that even if this team somehow makes the playoffs, that they're going to go into a cold, wet city like Kansas City, Cincinnati, or Nashville and win a road playoff game in January. I have yet to see any evidence that this team is prepared to win a game like that. And that's not just the quarterback, that's the head coach as well. That's the defensive coordinator as well. I have not seen signs that this team is prepared to alter their game plan or to play in such a way that would allow them to win in those conditions. And so, it's all doom and gloom right now. And it's going to be a lousy week to be a Miami Dolphin fan because the national media is going to start crapping all over this team as well. But, the Dolphins are back at it once again on Saturday night. It's a game that is not as big as it could have been had the Dolphins beaten the Chargers, but it is still a big one because if the Dolphins can, against all the odds, find a way to win, if Tua Tagovailoa can channel a big road December performance in the snow in Buffalo, maybe they can keep that same old Dolphins moniker at bay a little longer and once again take hold of a season that is suddenly in danger of going way off track again. Listen, the wheels aren't coming off, even with a loss in Buffalo. The wheels are not coming off yet, but the lug nuts are certainly getting loose. So, that'll wrap it up. Take care of yourselves this week. Practice self-care. Maybe stay away from some of the national media. Stay away from social media, if that's the kind of stuff that really gets under your skin. But we will talk to you again later this week to preview the Buffalo game. But until then, take care of yourselves and each other. And as always, go Dolphins!